black men being targeted is nothing new. B.B. Francis Cress Welsing spoke about it. B.B. Marimba Annie spoke about it. Baba Elijah Muhammad spoke about it. A lot of the greats that came before us spoke about it. This is nothing new. If you go back to the film The Birth of a Nation and look at the way they portrayed black people on film. Look at the way they put us on film. They understand the power of propaganda. They understand, because from that film led to the Red Summer, the slaughtering of hundreds of black people across the U.S., led to the destruction of Wall Street. So these people understand. If you fast forward, Hitler, Nazi Germany, the way the Germans used propaganda against the Jews. Let's read it. It says, Nazi propaganda. The Nazis effectively used propaganda to win the support of millions of Germans in a democracy and later in a dictatorship to facilitate persecution, war, and ultimately genocide. The stereotype and images found in Nazi propaganda were not new, but they were already familiar to their intended audience. So they implant these thoughts, they implant this image in the mind of those that they want to convince, or those that they want to keep in their way and in their line of thinking. Look at what was used against the Jews. Look at the images. It says here, Nazi films portray Jews as subhuman creatures infiltrating Aryan society. Look here, it says they communicated through art, music, theater, films, books, radio, educational materials, and the press. This is all the same things that they're doing today. And this isn't to advocate for Jews or to advocate for anybody else, because they were all involved in our enslavement and still are today. The difference is we're still going through a genocide. So the point isn't to advocate, but the point is to show how they use propaganda against us. The power of media. When they showed you Kobe Bryant, when they showed you R. Kelly, when they showed you Tiger Woods, when they showed you Kyrie, and how they implied that he was anti-Semitic from simply sharing a post, which when you go on Amazon, the same thing he shared is still up today. So if it's so anti-Semitic, why is this still online? But yet, they spank Kyrie for showing and for sharing information because they don't want you to know who you are. And not only do they not want you to know who you are, but anything that is shown that is opposite of the image they are portraying of you in the media has to be torn down. They understand the power of influence. Black people with the power to influence. Think about Beyonce and Jay-Z and how they helped during the race riots with Freddie Gray and Michael Brown, and how they helped. That was a concern. So you gotta understand, why was that a concern? Because they have the influence. Jay-Z and Beyonce had the influence that they couldn't just outright help. They had to do it in a way. But why is that concerning? Think about all the artists of influence that helped all the way back from the civil rights era that was of influence. And they had these mysterious deaths that nobody can figure out what happened to them. Come on, what do we think happened to them? Otis Redding, Sam Cooke. This is a reality. So I'm only doing this because Black people Black people, we have a problem correlating reality with reality. They are painting an image of you. What did they do to the black athlete when those brothers stood up and made a fist at the Olympics like Colin Kaepernick? See, white supremacy doesn't want to be called out. When you stand up against white supremacy, they don't want to be called out. LeBron James, think about it, what Langham said? She said, shut up and dribble, shut up and play. They will try to silence you. Any chance they get, they want to silence your voice.
It's always unwise to seek political advice from someone who gets paid $100 million a year to bounce a ball. Oh, and LeBron and Kevin, you're great players, but no one voted for you. Millions elected Trump to be their coach. So keep the political commentary to yourself, or as someone once said, shut up and dribble.
They did the same thing to Jim Brown, to Bill Russell, and who was it that actually tweeted or wrote back and said, we're not politicians, but we still have the right to speak because right is right and wrong is wrong. So you're telling me because these guys are athletes, they don't have any right to freedom of speech to say what they're thinking about their conditions? Where does this come from? It's a racial trope used to tell other races these black Negroes are getting out of hand. Look at the lynching memorial that took place in DC. Why? Why did the lynching take place? Because it was of black men that had land, black men that owned businesses. They're not going to they're not going to do that to the poor black man, but the black man with the power to change the conditions of his people. Do you understand? So we are watching the modern day lynching of these black men. And only the ones that play along to get along, they become accredited faces of our race. They become the black faces that's accredited to us. But in reality, we know that they are only doing what's being told. And as soon as they step outside those bounds, they will be just like anyone else. Uncle Luke said it. He sat with Stephen A. Smith and he said, they will spank you. They will put you in your place. And Stephen A., he agreed and he said, yes, they will.
In the world of big business, when you make an enemy of big business, along the way, they know enough about you.
Yes, they do.
To come for you when they want to come for you.
Yes, they do.
You understand? And it don't have to involve jail. It doesn't have to involve a crime. It can involve them squeezing you out of your money.
Yes,
making sure they humble you beyond repair.
Because we really know what's happening. We want to pretend we don't, but we really know what's happening. This is the modern day lynching. This is the castration. This is the villainization of black men. They have to make you the villain. So they're painting this image. If tomorrow your son gets accused of touching a white girl, but he says, no, I really didn't do it. If my son, 12 years old, come home and he says, no, mom, I really didn't do it, and he really didn't, guess what? He'll be another Emmett Till. Why? Because they already painted an image and they made you the villain. So no, I'm not standing up and saying R. Kelly didn't do it and this person didn't do it. That when we're listing these black men, we're showing you how they're taking your image and they're making a story for you. How many white men done raped? How many of the popes had these little kids? We have an enormous amount of people that will have these same stories and did it for years, but they're not put in the media the same way. Why is that? Why is it just the black man? The racist governor of Maine, he has a platform to speak.
These are guys of the name D-Money, Smoothie, Shifty, these type of guys that come from Connecticut, New York. They come up here, they sell their heroin, then they go back home. Incidentally, half the time they impregnate a young white girl before they leave. Which is the real sad thing, because then we have another issue that we got to deal with down the road.
Trump has a platform to speak. They have the power to influence the minds of the masses. So we have to be careful and understand what we're looking at. You have black university professors that's committing suicide because of the so-called microaggressions, which we know are not microaggressions. These are macroaggressions. Dr. Elaine Ferguson came onto the Vantage Point some time ago, and she said this is not trauma PTSD. This is ongoing trauma. This is not post-traumatic. This is not microaggressions. This is macroaggressions happening every day in front of us. But we are so distracted with everything else and everybody else and letting them consume our economics and consume our social behaviors and consume our entire world that we're not seeing how our black men are being affected, how our women are being affected, how our children that we are raising to be the next generation are being affected. So the reality is, no, this is nothing new.